Hello, hello, hello. Yee.
Hi everyone,
This is Anurag.
and this is Megha, and you are watching Poems with Friends, where we read a poem and try to feel something.
Yes, this is a special episode because this is the first time I'm contributing a poem to the podcast.
So, this is on Anurag's request. We are going to read The Gift by Ocean Vuong. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, I will read it.
Hmm.
The Gift. ABC, ABC, ABC. She doesn't know what comes after. So we begin again. ABC, ABC, ABC. But I can see the fourth letter, a strand of black hair unraveled from the alphabet and written on her cheek. Even now, the nail salon will not leave her. Isopropyl acetate, ethyl acetate, chloride, sodium lauryl sulfate, and sweat fuming through her pink I Love NY t shirt. ABC, ABC, A, the pencil snaps. The bee bursting its belly as dark dust blows through a blue lined sky. Don't move, she says, as she picks a wing bone of graphite from the yellow carcass, slides it back between my fingers, again and again. I see it, the strand of hair lifting from her face, how it fell onto the page and lived with no sound, like a word. I still hear it. Wow. Very nice poem. I think the first time that you sent it to me and I read it, I felt that it was a romance poem. I don't know if that's true because you were talking about some mother-son relationship or something like that. No?
Correct. So,
Hmm.
from what the context of this poem,
Hmm.
what I know is that this poetry collection by
Hmm.
Ocean Vuong is about both his mother and his father.
Oh.
So they have a lot of um, like the context, I guess, is that she like the father was abusive, and so I do not know whether he was in US or not, but after the Vietnam War, the mother came to the US and had Ocean Vuong there, and Ocean Vuong was a child prodigy. Like he had an amazing mastery on English language, and he has won a lot of awards. So in that context, I interpreted this poem always as him teaching his mother, because the mother came from Vietnam. He knows so much and he is teaching her. And this is about a specific moment that he felt while teaching her.
Oh wow, that's very interesting because even when I read it again now, I felt a lot of like romance and love in it, and I thought that there was this guy, and I did not know that Ocean Wong was a man, by the way. When I was just doing Google search, I read, oh, he is an American poet. Oh, I said, okay. But even when I read this poem, so when you read something, you automatically start assigning genders, right? And you automatically start having images in your head. So the image that I had was a guy who was in love with a poor girl who worked in a nail salon, and then he was trying to teach her things. But I think that's very interesting because even in a mother-son relationship, there could be a kind of romance, right? Like an element of romance or compassion, so much compassion that it feels like romance. Right? Okay. We'll discuss it part by part then.
One thing I want to point out here is that I have found his poems to be very visual. For example, line breaks and all makes so much sense. He uses literal emojis.
Oh yeah,
They are
like
I really like his poems. Like, even though I find him to be slightly cryptic, to be honest, I think he does not give away his emotions very easily.
I didn't find that actually. I mean, not in this poem. Yes, this poem is not very much of like directly saying or direct sorrow, but I was reading one of his books which I couldn't really make myself finish because I found it to be too sentimental actually. So I don't know, but yes, this poem, you're right. If we come back to this poem, the emotion in it, like when you read it, you kind of feel a kind of sorrow and a kind of longing of things, but he never directly says it, you know. Like, for example, the only sad thing that actually happens here is the pencil breaks, you know. But somehow the breaking of the pencil and everything together gives you a very like stark sense of sadness. At least for me, it gave me a very stark sense of sadness somehow. And somehow I felt that even because I was looking at it like a romance, I felt that it was like an unrequited romance, because in the
Hmm.
end he said that I still hear it. So he was not able to like finish that love or something like that.
Hmm.
Okay, we can discuss it part by part. So we have the first part, which is. Do you want to read just the first part again?
I can.
Hmm.
So, ABC, ABC, ABC. She doesn't know what come after. So we begin again. ABC, ABC, ABC. But I can see the fourth letter, a strand of black hair, unraveled from the alphabet and written on her cheek.
Hmm. So I think here, this particular part, when I was reading it for the first time,
Hmm.
I had to really stop and read it very slowly. And I think that is very important to enjoy poetry. Like, I have seen a lot of posts on Reddit which ask how to enjoy poetry, and that was one of the motivations to start this podcast, is because people think that how do you actually make yourself feel things. I think poetry is something that makes you slow down only if you really really, because when you're reading a novel, a 500-page novel, let's say, you can skim through it very fast and you can still get the gist of the story, or you can still get the important points or the action or the plot. But in a poem, you really really have to slow down. Like, you don't think that, oh, am I stupid, I have to read this line 4 times. I had to read this line 3 times to actually get the image in my head that he is talking about, for example, the strands of hair that fall on someone's face and them making a D like this, right?
Hmm.
A strand of black hair unraveled from the alphabet, that is the fourth letter, which is the D. So it makes, and to actually get this image in my head, I had to read it 2 3 times. I literally had to slow down and read it 2 3 times. And when I got it, so when you actually get that image in your head, then you're suddenly transported into the world of the poem, right? Then you
Hmm.
can see her in front of you.
Hmm. That's true. That it's a very visual poem. I'll say actually it's also a very contextual poem. It does
Hmm.
not give away its items easily. I think we'll read later,
Hmm.
but that's true. Like, for example, he wants us to guess that the D
Right, right.
is there.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That it's the point I was making is reading slow, but I think what you're saying is that he's also kind of playing a game with us. He's not saying that the D written on her cheek. He could have said that, and I think that's a great point, because it's a poem is also like I think, I don't know if I am going too much overboard with this, but I think he's flirting with us also. Just like he's flirting with the girl, he's also flirting with the reader, in the sense that when you're flirting, you don't directly say things, right? You
Hmm.
don't say that, oh, I want to kiss you on the cheeks or whatever. You hint at something and then the other person has to guess it. It's like a puzzle game almost, right? Okay. Uh, Anything else? You were talking about line breaks, and actually, I have never not seen a lot of people use this, and this is the first time that I'm seeing it being used so much,
Hmm.
right? Does it have any extra effect on the poem? But I can see the fourth letter, a strand of black hair unraveled from the alphabet and written on her cheek. I think I don't know. This gives me a feeling of like actually the letter that is written as a hair or
Hmm. It could be because the mother uses it. I'm not sure.
it could also be a casual way of writing, right?
Yeah, I didn't even notice all the ants are
Yeah,
ampersands.
this
Every
is
single
so.
one. I I was trying to find a normal ant and it's not there. It does mean something. I'm not sure what though.
This and yeah, I also don't know, but this and actually again gives me the image of a hair. Like he's talking about
Hmm.
hair and alphabets, right? This does look like that.
Hmm.
Mm. Okay, awesome. So we'll go to the second part. You will read it. Let's read till here.
Even now, the nail saloon will not leave her. Isopropyl acetate, ethyl acetate, chloride, sodium lauryl sulfate, and sweat fuming through her pink I love NY t shirt. ABC, ABC, A. The pencil snaps.
Nice. I was actually thinking that why did he list down everything in such detail, like the acids? And then I thought that, oh, maybe he wanted to give us a sense of smell, you know.
And I got it actually. Like sodium lauryl sulfate is a shampoo thing,
Oh,
and isopropyl acetate, I guess, is the
nail paint
nail
remover.
paint remover. So he's just creating that sense of mixed smells that like she has. And one more thing I actually liked, this is the how technical this is. He could have written shampoo, nail polish,
Right,
etc.
right,
But
right.
this essentially says that she does not know ABCD, etc. But she
Oh,
is good at
yeah.
her craft. Like she
Yes.
deals with these things on a daily basis. Her life is complicated.
Right, that's a very good point. I never thought about it. That, yeah, she could have said nail paint remover, shampoo, but he used specific terms. Maybe this is his way of getting us into her world. As you said, she doesn't know the ABCD, but in her world, in her job, she knows everything about her job. So she is smart, right? And that's why I think even in the rest of the poem, there is a sense of her trying to learn this. For example, even after the pencil snaps, she tries doing it. So we do get a sense of that, oh, this person is smart and this person is diligent and they are trying to learn the alphabet. It's not like she's saying that, oh, I'll do it later. Why do you keep making me do this, right? Coming back to the smell part, it's actually very interesting. I was like, this is another thing that I was reading somewhere, that as you said that it's very visual, the poem is very visual, and I read somewhere that the poem, in order to create a world, I think not just poetry, even prose, in order to create a world, they should play on all senses. So sight, smell, touch, right? So he started with sight. He gave us the visual of the hair on her cheek making a D. Then he got us into smell. Like we are now in the nail salon, and how beautifully he just mentions the nail salon once, right? Actually, I think that's why I like poetry much more than prose, because in prose you're like just going on lines and lines and lines about, oh, this is the nail salon, this is the tile color of the nail salon, this is the door color of the nail salon, this is the fan, and at one point you kind of get bored, right? With poetry, why what I love is that it's like it's so succinct, it's just economy of words, and he just says even now the nail salon. He didn't mention nail salon before anywhere. He just directly said even now the nail salon, and our contextual mind will grasp it, right? We'll not say, oh, even now the what does it mean? You didn't mention nail salon before. No, we automatically go into that zone, and we automatically imagine the nail salons that we have been to, right? It's not that he has to describe us the tile color, the floor color of the. We will imagine things that we have seen, and that will be enough. Sorry, I got a little.
No, that's correct. Like for example, the nail salon that I imagine is because I know this poem is happening in the context of Vietnam person
US.
living in US. I imagine the US
Nails.
nail salons like
Right,
I have
right.
seen in the movies. I have not seen them
Right,
myself.
right. And it's like the succinctness of it makes you jump into the world very fast, right? You can just zoom into it very fast. Okay, so he goes into the hi Saz. Do you want to be a part of our podcast?
He wants to be.
No, he doesn't want to.
And the one more thing I really like is this I love NY t-shirt. Like it's so
Right.
cringe.
Right.
Like
Yes.
I
yes.
love NY, she lives there, and but she wears it. And what I get a vision of is that it's one of those cheap t-shirts that she
Right.
may have gotten from
From the
somewhere.
roadside. Yeah.
So or maybe a second hand
Thrift
t-shirt.
store or something.
Correct. So like she just is like
She doesn't care about what presenting herself through clothes or something, but she does care about learning what her son is teaching her. Right, and this also brings back the point of what you said, that Ocean also uses, like he's not scared to use emojis. For example, he makes a love right here, right? Because that I love NY actually suddenly gives you a visual of that t-shirt.
exactly
That's-
that she true, like in 4 letters he actually gives the full imagery of what she is.
Yes, exactly. I can almost imagine her hair, how she looks with just that, I love NY t-shirt. Right. Okay. The next part.
So the bee bursting its belly as
Okay, we'll read it again and then the next part.
even now the nail salon will not leave her. Isopropyl acetate, ethyl acetate, chloride, sodium lauryl sulfate and sweat, which by the way sweat is just so jarring here, fuming through her.
Yes. I think this sweat part is where the sadness starts coming in, right? Here it was more romantic, the first part. And then in the second part, even all of these acids and their chemical names, there is a certain sense of sorrow and disgust, like that kind of thing coming in, right? And sweats, that this is a place of hard work, this is a place of smells, and this is where we survive, right?
True. And sweat fuming through her pink I love
Fuming, and we are using the word fuming, right?
and fumes are like
Yeah.
like not smells you want.
Yeah.
Through her pink I love NY t-shirt, ABC ABC A, the pencil snaps. The bee bursting its belly as dark dust blows through a blue lined sky. Don't move, she says, as she picks a wing bone of graphite from the yellow carcass and slide it back between my fingers again and again.
Actually, a really great point that you made here, that in the second part we are coming back to an image of maybe hardship, for example, fumes and sweat. And then suddenly in the third paragraph, he again makes it romantic. Through the bee bursting its belly as dark dust blows through a blue lined sky. That's such a romantic image. It's almost like fairy dust that's going through a blue sky. So for me, and even when I was reading it the first time, I felt a sense of romanticism in this third paragraph. And when I look at it all together, the romanticism and then the hardship and then the romanticism again, it makes me think, like, with the context that you have now provided, it makes me think that is how actually people who survive hardships live their life, right? They are living in hardship, but they find moments of romanticism here and there, and then they go back into hardship, and then they find a moment of romanticism, right?
What does blue lined sky though means? Like to me it brings an imagery that the sky is darkening and only a little bit of blue is left.
That could also be right, because it might be evening, and that's why he's saying that even now the nail salon will not leave her. Even now it's so late. That's true. I think yes. It could also imply that it's so late, but the way it's written, it makes me think of something very, beautiful. It doesn't make me sad, or it doesn't give me a image of hardship. Like like he writes it, dark dust blows through a blue lined sky. He could have written it in a way that gives you a sense of more disgust or hardship, but he writes it in a very beautiful kind of way.
Which is, to be honest, something I really like about this poem. Like, essentially, what this poem is about is a mother is coming from work and she has to learn her ABCDs and she does not know. And the son is teaching. The son goes to school, etc. And then the pencil breaks. And the mother is like, hey, wait, don't move. And tries to salvage, because she's not very well off. So salvage whatever is left of the pencil and is trying to continue her ABCDs. But he is looking at it in a very different way.
Right.
Like, his view of the situation is very different.
Right.
Like, when the pencil bursts, some graphite must have scattered. But he is imagining it in a very dreamy way.
Dreamy way. Right. Yes, I think that's a great one, because he is showing us her world but through his eyes. So he sees a kind of dreaminess in it, which he projects that dreaminess, right? Because I think that is the only way to see yourself through hardship, right? You have to be a little dreamy, a little delusional. Then he sees the hardship also. He sees the sweat fuming also. But then he phases out and he sees the dark dust also. He's dreamy that way. It's a great point. I think coming to the fourth paragraph and what you said, for a second he brings in her personality also, right? He doesn't say that she picks the yellow carcass. He says, don't move, she says. So for a second we can see her. That she is very diligent and focused. Don't move. As she picks a wing bone of graphite. Even these lines, a wing bone of graphite, are so romanticized, right? From the yellow carcass, slides it back between my fingers. Actually, these are the lines which made me think of it more and more as romance. Slides it back between my fingers. It's such a soft, romantic feeling, right? Again and again.
But wait, did we interpret it wrong? Because it says she slides it back between my fingers. Why his fingers?
Yes, I think she was writing right now. Maybe she's now giving him the pencil to write the fourth letter, so that he can teach her the fourth letter. I didn't completely get the last line though. Slides it back between my fingers again and again, in the sense that, this is happening every day, is it?
That he's saying maybe, that this is not a one day thing. This happens every day.
Right, could be. I love this don't move paragraph, because suddenly we are out of his perspective for just 1 second and inside her. Don't move, she says, as she picks her. And how much difference it makes. I was actually reading this other book which I am really, really loving right now. I'm actually reading it the second time. And in that, I noticed for the first time that how much difference does it make to write something in which for example, he wrote, don't move, she says, versus she said, don't move, versus don't move, said she, and in that book I finally note, like, it's such a beautiful book. It's called The Autobiography of Fred, and such a beautiful book, and I have to sometimes really put an effort to see what is the effect that it's making on me, why is it making that effect. And then I realized that what that writer was doing was that when the protagonist is speaking, they would write said Red, like Red is the protagonist, they would write it in a normal way, that, oh, Anurag, your cat is very beautiful, said Red, right? But when someone else apart from the protagonist is speaking, they would put it as Anurag said that the cat is very beautiful. Anurag said. So, it kind of shifts perspective from when I am saying something, let's say I am the protagonist, so I'll put the words before. I'll say, this light is falling on my face, said Red. So the words come before. But when someone else is speaking, I say, oh, Anurag said. So for me, Anurag comes first, and then the words come later. So, and I can't stop noticing, like here also, as don't move, he put the words first.
That is what he remembers.
So because he put the words first, we are put into her perspective. If he would have put she said don't move, then we were still inside his eyes. So we look at she first and then we look at the words. But now we look at the words first. So we are suddenly her.
Wow.
Okay, last part. Actually, amazing line break here. I've actually dirtied it a little bit. Let me do it. So if you see here, there's a full stop here between my fingers again. And then there is and again I see it. So this continues here. Right.
And again I see it. The strand of hair lifting from her face, how it fell onto the page and lived. With no sound like a word, I still hear it.
And again I see it. Strand of hair lifting from her face. How it fell onto the page. Also another strand, or not another strand. One strand of hair has lifted from her face.
The same strand which he was seeing on the hair, on the face, has fell onto the page.
Right.
And he is again saying it like it's saying it's just a hair. There is no shape to it. So it has no sound. It's not A, B, C. But he's saying it is a word. It is, I still hear it. It's a story.
Right. Oh, yes. That makes a lot of sense. The strand of hair lifting from her face, how it fell onto the page and lived with no sound. Like a word. I still hear it. This actually, this is one of those lines that you remember from the poem, right? And lived with no sound like a word. I still hear it. But what you said is amazing perspective that I did not think of. That it's first of all, it could be the same strand of hair that we were talking about in the first paragraph, and then it could fall like a scribble, like nothing that means anything, but there is a story in that scribble and it lives, as something which is undefined maybe.
I think that is what I really liked about this poem, to be honest. Like he is saying, like he's a son of immigrant single mother, and this is his story. Like he's saying that this happens so much times that and that it goes unnoticed. But his view of this poem essentially is that he has kind of eulogized that moment in a way. Like he is saying that this is not nothing. This is a lot.
Right. He has made that very dull moment very special and forever immortal kind of.
Because it is to him. He's saying I still hear it. Like he may have gone to university or whatever, won awards, but he still remember those days.
Right.
When they were poor, then he was teaching the mother.
I think that makes a lot of sense in also another context of, and again I see it. In the sense that even when he's writing the poem, maybe later in his life when he's done winning awards, he can still see that strand of hair lifting from her face and how it lived. I think just like while you were talking, I felt that maybe even and lived with no sound could also allude to the fact that since his mother could not write, maybe could not speak English well, so she did not have a story that she could tell. So she was speechless in a way in her story, but that's why it lived with no sound.
I think what you see as romance is what I see as immense gratitude for his mother.
So this was a great poem. I think one more thing that we were discussing is that how he uses imagery and then smell of the chemicals and then touch with the between the fingers thing, the lead between the fingers, and he also uses motion. So the three epsilons that are right here give us a sense of slow moving, right? And as you said, that its motion is everywhere, fumes or
This other